Hello and welcome back, this is BroTelDev, back with another project video from university. This time we're going to be looking at VR, and specifically the VR experience that was an extension to the Marble Runner game, which was the Ethics of Lootbox project. Bit confusing, I know, but don't worry. Last time in that video I did mention that I might cover the VR aspect of it, even though it was quite a small mini project. This project was specifically for kind of boosting your grade, kind of adds to it. You do need a VR element to pass that specific module. However, it didn't need to be that advanced or anything, it just needed to show that you could use the controls of the VR and have it integrated into your project in some way. The biggest thing to notice is that it was really just an extension, and so in the end I ended up being the only one to do it, even though it was a group project. This was partly to do with two of our members at this point were very busy with other assignments, as we were. However, there was also some other things going on, some family circumstances, and I was able to kind of fill in that gap for the VR experience, and I also had assistance here and there from David, who did some testing for the game, and he also fixed one or two issues. But for the most part, I created the VR aspect of it. Because of that, and because it was so late in development, obviously we had to get the main project done, the Marble game, which was specifically requested from our client, so we had to get that done. The VR really wasn't part of that, it wasn't what the client needed or wanted, it was just something for our module. I actually really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making the VR aspect of it. I thought it was very different, we went with something very simple. During the whole process, there was a few ideas that we went with the VR experience, and we ended up going with the simplest, which was just throwing a ball into a hoop, and then you get points, and based on those points, how many points you earned and how many hoops you got, the rarity of the loot box would be higher. Then at the very end, or when you're tired, you could go to the loot box, open it, and it would basically have something in it, and that would be a skin, and it would change some of the balls in the containers that you collect them from to throw into hoops. It would change those. And around the map, you would also have on walls and hidden around, you would be able to access pieces of information about loot boxes and about how they're being treated in the industry, what they're doing, the ethics of them. So that was what the idea was, but that initial idea was kind of a little bit different. So I have a video of the beta version. You have to mind the frame rate. This was recorded on, I think, my old PC at the time, and it was really struggling. I upgraded my PC once I was coming out of uni, and so this is on my older PC, which could just about run VR. So don't mind the low frame rate. After that, I'll be showing you a video of the more modern version, the newer version. So this whole video is basically the beta, or should I say the alpha version. It was very much the alpha version. So here it is. So what this is, minding the frame rate, is that you would basically use the controls to move using the teleport that is already built in default. This is the beta version, very simple layout for the map. You have all of the different balls. These are all the default skins from the Marble game, which was a nice little nod to that. And then what you do is you just try and throw these into the hoops, which was actually very difficult at the time. It turns out the collisions weren't quite right, and there just isn't enough hoops. It's really hard to throw in VR, surprisingly. So I'm throwing a lot of these and missing. Trying my best to kind of move around. And on this map there'll also be a button over on the left with a couple of loot boxes that you can actually click on, and it won't do anything yet in this beta version. It was just a kind of representation. You just saw that you could see the coins you were earning. And then on the back it also had a bit of text about loot boxes, and this is just a basic beta version. And I really didn't have, I think I had like 2 weeks or a week to try and make this, learn all of VR and be able to make this little level. So not very long at all, especially when you're working on other projects and other assignments at the same time. and I believe the beta version, which I'm going to show you, which was closer to release, and relatively pretty much the release version, the beta version only had bugs to fix by the time it was finished. So there you go. The VR experience will hopefully give the player a better understanding. So that's the basic video, and that was what I showed for the alpha presentation that was coming towards the end. I think that was roughly January. I think it was January the 14th I did that presentation. Again, I talked about that presentation in the Marble Runner Ethics Loot Box project video, so check that out. But basically, it's really just an add-on this, and I ended up doing it on my own. And even though this was a group project still, I was able to kind of include that on its own. Yeah, I got really good feedback from it, specifically from my personal tutor and the lecturer, and I got very good feedback for showing this. So moving on to the next video, and this is actually the more modern version. So as you saw there, it was very simple, and then the next video is much more specific and complicated, and you would have seen it already. It was in the highlights video, some of the footage. Yeah, so it's just me in my living room with the VR headset on, the Oculus Rift. So the first thing you're going to notice, obviously this is the sped up version. I don't have the raw footage anymore of the VR highlight, the VR experience when I recorded it, simply because it's just gone. And basically all it is very similar to what I just showed in the previous one. Obviously this is now the beta version, just before doing a bunch of bug fixes and stuff, and it's relatively the same in terms of look. So immediately you'll notice the map looks very different. It looks much more refined. Obviously that was one of the bigger focuses, was design of the map and the level. So there's a lot more props. There's actually a lot of props from the Marble Runner game, which is the low poly trees and like plants and things. So that builds up a little bit more. The water was redone, the water textures, and you also should be able to see that I actually added a little bit of weight and things and mass to the ball, so that it acts a little bit more realistically when I throw it. There's a bit more of a backboard that you can use to throw balls against, and have them bounce and make it a little bit easier for the player, because it was very hard before. There's a lot more hoops specifically that allow you to be able to score more. There's actually a little bit of a bug which was stopping the coins from counting sometimes, so some of them don't move when you get quite a lot of hoops. So the number's actually a lot higher, it's just it wasn't displaying correctly, but that's okay. And basically you would throw the balls, some of these skins, and again the same thing, you would go to one specific loot box. Initially we had 3, but changed it to one specific one, that way the player doesn't have to look around all the time, they can just know where that one is. And then once they're ready, they can freely teleport using the UI, using a 3D spaced 3D space button that they can interact with. Click it and they can go to the other one. Obviously I added in all the controls myself, I coded all the VR stuff. I also added in a little bit more movement to it, that you can walk a little bit. The other thing is that once you open the loot box, there was supposed to be an animation, but I just didn't get time to finish it, so I ended up just disabling it because it wasn't ready, because otherwise it was just a little bit broken. And I just replaced it with a basic lid opening animation, which works very well. Basically once that loot box is open, you would then unlock a bunch of skins, depending on how many hoops you hit. I mentioned it just previously. And so it worked the same apparently, but unfortunately there was a bug that I didn't notice until the presentation, but and just after, when I was fully testing it, because I hadn't tested it long enough and I didn't show it long enough during the presentation and the showcase. But it turns out that the skins wasn't actually working. I didn't notice it again until after showing that off. Luckily no one noticed it in the presentation, but basically the skins weren't unlocking correctly, and so they wouldn't change. So that was a bug I fixed later, and that was after this video, and after this highlight. it was a really fun project to work on. I have enjoyed it, I've learned a great deal from it, and for the most part I think I've done very well with VR. I haven't had a full-on project yet with VR, but you never know. I might do something in the future, or I might try VR again, we'll see. So that's been my VR project for the most part, but most of the details are on a blog, and I'll have a link to my blog in the description. But that blog will also show the work done with the Marble Runner, as well as interactions with the client, and it'll show the VR progression and development of VR that I've done alongside it. So this has been ProTail Dev, and I'll see you next time.